would be gold indeed for Gloucestershire.
It certainly would, but there is much work to be done this morning before they can think about that sort of thing. And you would imagine that the likes of Gregory and Overton, it does look as if it will be Lewis Gregory to bowl the first over. They know what they've got to do, really. The ball is pretty much literally in their hands. The pressure from this point on, you would think, is on Gloucestershire, because Somerset are not necessarily expected to win from this position, but they will be still very confident of doing so. But yes, the pressure is on Gloucestershire with this, what seems like a small chase, but as both Ian Harvey and James Hildreth said, these small chases, they can be absolute nightmares sometimes.
I think the Gloucester camp are pretty confident though, aren't they? Here comes Gregory anyway, we'll come back to that in a moment. Gregory from the Triscothic Pavilion end bowls to James Bracey, who just plays that out into the offside. Confident? They must. I'm sure they would have said they were confident anyway.
Oh well, they would have to be, really, wouldn't they? This is the sort of position that you try and get yourself in. You can't have an absolutely easy victory, you know, every time, and you certainly can't have it very often against a team like this. So this is a fantastic position, and they will know that for sure.
There's Gregory to Bracey and bowls, and that's turned away through the onside, and that will go for 4 runs, the first runs of the morning, 32 for 1, as we welcome listeners to BBC 5 Live Sports Extra to Taunton, where Gloucestershire now need another 121 to record their second successive victory in this season's county championship and inflict a severe dent in Somerset hopes of challenging for the championship this season. It's in for the long haul, so there's a long way to go, but this is a big game for both sides. Gregory's in bowls to Bracey, who lifts his bat out of the way of that. I'm Anthony Gibson. With me is Ed Seaborn, and as well as 5 Live Sports Extra, we're broadcasting to you on behalf of BBC Radio Somerset, BBC Radio Gloucestershire, and BBC Radio Bristol. It's a lovely morning, 3 slips, a weight, an outside edge from the left-handed James Bracey. We've got short cover point, very square, catching though, strange position. Gregory in and bowls to Bracey, takes that on the thigh pad and drops down in front of him.
It is an interesting fielding position, that, and it's one that they've had for basically the entire time that Bracey's been out there in the match. I think he does like to drive with the kind of open face of the bat through that point region, so they obviously think that maybe he might hit one in the air, but it's interesting that they've got him in that close. I haven't seen a fielding position quite like that before, I must say.
Here's Gregory, bowls to Bracey, who defends, won't get a run. George Bartlett fields from mid-off. George Bartlett at mid-off. Jack Leach at extra cover. I think that's Tom Lammonby at that very square, we call it square gully or short cover point.
Something like that, short point.
Short point maybe. He's about 20, 22, 23 yards from the bat, something like that. Hands on his knee, so he is catching as Gregory is in and bowls outside the off stump. No shot from Bracey. That concludes the first over. 4 runs have been added to Gloucestershire's overnight score of 28 for 1, 32 for 1. They are. Bracey has moved on to 14. Brathwaite is the other knocked out batsman from overnight, and 121 more runs are needed by Gloucestershire. 9 wickets by Somerset.
I think I'm just going to give up at this point, trying to read what the pitch is doing, because it certainly didn't seem to do what we thought it would do yesterday. And this morning, who knows how it will play, but Brathwaite, as he takes that leg bail off and thumps it to line up middle stump for Craig Overton. He was looking actually pretty solid last night against Craig Overton. It was the left-handers that were in all sorts of difficulty, and Chris Dent was the man to depart, having played on, trying to leave the ball off Craig Overton. Here's the first ball from Craig Overton. He's in, he bowls to Brathwaite, and Brathwaite drops that one away out towards point, and there's no run. Brathwaite picking up most of his runs by just angling the ball away down towards third man last night. Did that a couple of balls in a row, and I think maybe 3 times in about 4 balls off Craig Overton. There weren't many boundaries hit last night. In fact, there was only just the one, neither by Brathwaite or Bracey. It was heavy going as Overton is there. He bowls to Brathwaite, and Brathwaite leaves that one alone. Looked to be some movement there for Craig Overton.
Interesting piece by Simon Wilde in the Sunday Times this morning about the difficulties of producing England red ball opening batsmen when county cricket, 4-day county cricket, is being played early in the season, so much in April and May, on pitches which give a fair amount of assistance to the seamers with the moving ball.
Craig Overton moves in. He's there, he bowls to Brathwaite, and Brathwaite, well, I was going to say played inside the line of that one, but actually I'm not sure he did, judging by the way that he is walking away towards square leg. I think actually he may well have played and missed at that one.
Yeah, I think he probably did.
Hard to say from this angle exactly, but I think judging by Brathwaite's reaction, he didn't necessarily mean for that to happen.
He is though, he's what you might call a proper opening batsman, isn't he? He looks like an opening batsman, he plays like an opening batsman.
Here comes Overton, he's in, he bowls, and he bowls a bouncer, which Brathwaite sees early and ducks underneath it. It's a little look back up towards Craig Overton. I can't see actually whether he's batting in those now fairly famous sunglasses of his, but it's certainly a day for it if he were going to do so. And like you say, yes, he's very much a proper opening batsman. He's not usually looking to go out there and play his shots. Here comes Overton in, bowls to Brathwaite. Brathwaite will leave that one with a stride towards the ball and then a swish of the bat. I saw a great little compilation on the Twitter feed of the County Championship of some of the leaves from the first round of matches, and Craig Brathwaite's got a fairly signature way of leaving the ball, so perhaps they'll do another one after this round. Here comes Craig Overton to complete his first over of the morning. He's in, he bowls, and Brathwaite, oh, he's just turned that one into the leg side, but there was one hand off the bat there really when he played that one. It went straight into the ground, but nowhere near the middle of the bat, and Craig Overton with an early sign of encouragement there. It's a maiden over, and Gloucestershire 32 for 1, and they still require 121 more runs to win. Yeah,
it was very well played by Brathwaite. Late adjustment to deal with the late movement of the ball, and it's that late movement that's been the undoing of Somerset's young batsmen, Lammonby and Banton.
Certainly the undoing of Craig Overton himself. Well, mind you, I say late movement, that was that was just a spectacular, almost off-break delivery from Ryan Higgins yesterday that got rid of Overton.
Here's Gregory in, bowls to Bracey, who defends back up the pitch. Gregory fields, and of course the young batsmen, they do play so much white ball cricket that they don't have the ingrained defensive technique of a batsman like Craig Brathwaite out there. And of course they play their white ball cricket on pitches that tend to be flatter than the pitches on which county championship cricket is played, with white balls that don't swing nearly as much. As this is driven away through the offside by Bracey, a handsome shot, didn't try and hit it too hard, but it races away towards the Ondarchi Pavilion, away to our right for his second boundary of the morning. 36 for 1 now, Gloucestershire. It was over pitch from Gregory, but beautifully dealt with by James Bracey.
That was at least as nice a shot as any he played in the century in the first innings. In fact, I would say maybe that was even better than any of the shots he played in that innings.
Gregory bowls, and he's beaten and doesn't get an edge. That was a good ball from Lewis Gregory. Seam movement there. That foghorn of a voice that you can hear is that of the Somerset captain, Tom Abel. There it is. It is again. Encouraging his troops, clapping his hands. What a shame there aren't any people here to see this game, especially if it does boil up into a close finish. What an atmosphere there would be with spectators, supporters of both sides as Gregory's in and bowls, and that comes off a thick edge down to third man, and you heard the shout of frustration from Lewis Gregory that he found the edge, but it flew away all along the ground, wide of third slip, and another 4 runs accrue to Gloucestershire. 40 for 1. Somerset desperate for early wickets. They must break this partnership if they're to have any hope of picking up the wickets they need.
It was a good comeback really from Gregory since the drive for 4. The next ball was just perfect, and that one, you can't fault Gregory for going for 4 there.
He's in again and bowls to Bracey. Again, that one leaving the left-hander, angled in and leaving him, but just fractionally too wide of off stump for Bracey to have to play a shot.
I'm sure a lot of the frustration will be cumulative for Lewis Gregory as well. He wasn't at his best for the majority of the first innings, and he probably knows that he's probably not going to be bowling for too long if he goes for a few more boundaries.
He tries again. He's there and bowls outside the off stump again. No shot from Bracey, so an expensive over for Gregory and Somerset. 8 runs going on the board for Gloucestershire. 40 for 1 they are after 13 overs, so going along at around about 3 runs and over. And they're neither over attacking nor going into their shells. They're playing each ball on its merits. And Bracey, the more prolific of the 2 batsmen so far, he has 22. Brathwaite hasn't added to his overnight 8 in the 3 overs that we've had.
3 slips just taking their position. Lewis Gregory taking his spot at second slip as here's Craig Overton in bowls to Brathwaite, and Brathwaite is beaten by a ball that comes back towards him. And, well, Brathwaite's just got to play down that line and hope that the ball does not catch the outside edge. But, like you say, he's a proper opening batsman, and he is not going to be too phased by the ball consistently going past his outside edge, because he knows it's going to happen. Just got to trust his technique and the ability, like you said, with that last ball of the last over from Craig Overton, to make the adjustment if necessary. Here is Overton, he bowls, and that's driven, and that's fielded at wide mid-off, and there's no run. And Brathwaite actually got good timing on that, but I wouldn't have necessarily said that was a drive ball. So
yeah, it was quite wide outside the off stump, and he played it on the up as well.
Yes, and I think Craig Overton will feel like he's achieved a minor victory by getting Craig Brathwaite to play that shot. Having said that, of course, it was laced just straight to the fielder. Here comes Craig Overton, bowls, and Brathwaite once more beaten, and that time I would say he went fishing a little bit after that one, unlike the play and a miss earlier in the over where he was covering the stumps. I think that time Brathwaite really did move the bat more towards the ball, and Craig Overton is picking up right where he left off last night. I don't think really you would have expected anything else from him. Here he comes once more into Brathwaite. He bowls, and Brathwaite clips this one away. He's picked the gap at mid-wicket, and that is racing away towards the short boundary. I say it's racing away. It seems to be slowing up a little bit towards the rope, but it makes it. And that's 4 runs for Brathwaite, who moves into double figures, 12 to his name. Gloucestershire 44 for 1, 109 more needed, and that was clipped away off, well, around about off stump, maybe even slightly outside off stump.
It was over pitch though from
That was the key, really,
Overton,
wasn't it?
yeah. So he could get right to the pitch of it. It was in the air for a time.
Overton in now at bowls, and that's left alone by Brathwaite, just a little bit wider there, and no reason for Brathwaite to play a shot at that one. But
Be interesting to know how many times Gloucestershire batsmen have played and missed at Craig Overton in comparison with the other quicker bowlers. I don't know whether he's seen a single magpie without hailing it as with a good morning, Mr. Magpie, but or what. But he doesn't seem to be enjoying the best of luck at the moment, and this applied up at Lord's as well.
here is Overton, he bowls to Brathwaite. Brathwaite clips this one through mid-wicket, all along the ground this time. It's not going to make it to the boundary, and they'll jog back for a comfortable couple of runs to end the over. Brathwaite moves on to 14, Gloucestershire 46 for 1, and needing now 100, and it's gone. 107 runs to win. I was relying on just looking at the stream for it, and then it disappeared off. 107 more needed to win. And Brathwaite's showing that he's quite happy to turn balls to the leg side from around about off stump. So Overton be quite happy about that. But so far he's picked up 6 runs total for having done so.
I think Gloucestershire have come out with the mindset that we must be positive here. We're not going to allow the bowlers to dictate terms. We've got a field change. Tom Abel coming out of the slips and going to a deep gully as Gregory is in bowls to Bracey on leg stump, and Bracey just tucks that away into the onside, sets off for a single. Bartlett does the fielding, 48. 47 for 1, I beg your pardon. 47 for 1, so they need another
106.
106.
I don't know how happy I would be with just allowing Bracey to drop the ball into the leg side like that for a single. I know that they don't want Gloucestershire to get moving as quickly as they perhaps are at the moment, but at the same time, so few runs to play with. Can you just afford to be giving singles anywhere?
We've got a short mid-wicket in a catching position for Gregory to Brathwaite, and Brathwaite wristily turns that away down to deep backward square leg. Marchant de Lange doesn't pick it up cleanly, but there would have been 2 runs in that in any event. 49 for 1.
Yes, you just made doubly sure that the ball didn't cross the boundary rope, and like you say, there was always 2 there, and there was never going to be 3 there with de Lange's arm, and despite not picking it up cleanly, he made doubly sure it wasn't going to be a terrible misfield.
You wonder how long it will be before Jack Leach comes into the attack, see what he can do on this pitch. Gregory, though, over the wicket, bowls to Brathwaite, who plays a rather wild drive to a wide ball, looking to flay that away through the offside. Could easily have nicked it through to wicketkeeper or slips. It was a shot worthy of Tom Banton, that one.
It was a very poor shot from Brathwaite, and it's very rare to see him do that, I must say, from just watching him in Test cricket. He's obviously feeling very confident, but perhaps he's a little bit overconfident.
He seems to have decided to get a move on as Gregory is in and bowls and taking on the pad, but ball going down the leg side. You heard the shouts from the Somerset slip cordon.
Just don't associate that kind of swishing drive with Craig Brathwaite. He's normally just trying to push the ball through the offside and either let the outfield do the work or just pick up a couple of runs. A very uncharacteristic swishing drive at a ball that was nowhere near there to be driven off the previous ball.
Gregory tries again, up to the wicket and bowls, and this is a peculiar sort of shot, played almost with a horizontal bat out into the offside. He's obviously full of confidence, Craig Brathwaite. I think the last game he played was the test match against Sri Lanka in Antigua, when he got a century in the first innings and 80 odd in the second. He looked confident in the first innings here. It was a bit of a surprise when he was given out LBW. He didn't think much of the decision, for reasons that were never particularly clear to me. Gregory's in and bowls to him again, and this is down the leg side, and Brathwaite looks to flick it down to fine leg. Doesn't get anything on it. It's taken by Stephen Davis. It's the end of the over. 49 for 1 with 16 to Brathwaite, 23 to Bracey, and the target has been reduced to 104 runs more Gloucestershire need.
You made the point yesterday that Jack Leach would probably like to bowl, as he has done in the match so far, from the river end, but that's also the end that Craig Overton is bowling. So do they bring Leach on from the Marcus Trescothick Pavilion end, or do they wait till the end of Craig Overton's spell? They may think that they can't wait until the end of Craig Overton's spell. I can't imagine that they're going to wait too much longer on Lewis Gregory, even at this early stage of the day. Short mid-wicket in place for Bracey as Overton bowls, and Bracey calmly pushes that one away up to mid-on, and there is no run. 2 slips and a tight ring field for Somerset. They've got pretty much early stages of a 50-over game type field here, really, with the 2 slips. There is no third man. I suppose that would be the only field position you probably would have. There was a fine leg out of my sight as Overton bowls, and that's down the leg side, and there's a shout. Overton thinks he's got his man, but most of the Somerset fielders in front of the wicket are just standing there looking fairly bemused. Certainly there was interest from Stephen Davis and from the slips, and a huge interest from Overton, who's made his way over towards square leg. But the fielders at mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket and extra cover, they barely moved.
Well, I think it's left Craig Overton cursing his luck again. I didn't hear anything, and there was no obvious deviation, and hard to tell from the replays that we've got whether he got anything on it.
Richard Illingworth is certainly going to be in the spotlight this morning, you would feel. He's still got that neck scarf, which isn't quite pulled up as high as it was on the first few days, but he's still obviously not the warmest out there. Well, he hasn't gone with the gloves today. Here comes Craig Overton. He's in, bowls to Bracey and angles that one across, and Bracey watches that one go through to the wicket-keeper and watches it go right through to the wicket-keeper, because he does not want to look at Craig Overton. Craig Overton desperately wants Bracey to look back at him, but he will not do so.
He's giving it everything he's got, Craig Overton, as he always does. Tremendous trier. But Somerset do need a little bit of luck. They need something to go their way to make this initial breakthrough.
Here comes Craig Overton. In now at bowls to Bracey, and Bracey once more watches that one go through. It's a fantastic test of temperament, this. It really is, because it's these types of games that I think, if you're a selector, if you're an England selector, you look at and you say the runs that are scored in a game like this count, maybe not double, but you know what I mean. Speaking figuratively, they count double. As here is Craig Overton. He's there, bowls short, pulled away by Bracey. He's got that one over the top, well over the top. It bounces 3 times before going over the mid-wicket boundary for 4 runs. Gloucestershire's 50 comes up for the innings, but perhaps more importantly, the runs required are down to a round century. It didn't quite get up enough, really, that bouncer from Craig Overton. And yes, James Bracey hit it in the air, but he always knew really where that one was going, and he backed himself to clear the infield and did that.
Powerful short arm pull. He's a compact batsman.
Yes, that was
James
exactly
Bracey.
the word I was going to use. Yes, when he plays those shots off the back foot, it is very compact, and actually off the front foot as well. You'll rarely see him with a kind of a flourishing drive as Overton bowls to Bracey, and Bracey just angles that one away to backward point. Played with the open face of the bat. Craig Overton is frustrated, and for Gloucestershire that is a good thing. 53 for 1. He is bowling a tremendous spell here, is Craig Overton, but as yet he's not managed to get the breakthrough this morning. Gloucestershire need 100 more runs as they take a sanitisation break here, and they have not yet lost a wicket in the first 25 minutes or so, which, you know, these two, you would think the first job was to see off that first half an hour, and they've more than seen it off. In fact, they've scored plenty of runs as well. They were 28 for 1 overnight, so they've added a further 25 in the 6 overs, which is not bad going.
Yeah, they've taken their opportunities. Somerset bowling Gregory 8 overs 1 maiden, none for 23. Craig Overton 8 overs 1 maiden, 1 for 30. And I really don't think that Tom Abel can leave it much longer before giving Jack Leach a go. The double change I would make would be Leach from the river end and Josh Davey from the Trescothick Pavilion end. But for the moment it's Gregory to Brathwaite. He's there and bowls. Brathwaite drives straight. He doesn't time it. He'll pick up a single, and Gregory just got a hand down on that to slow the ball's progress. I don't think he would have gone for 4 in any case.
I think what he was trying to do was deflect the ball onto the stump. So if he'd actually tried to stop the ball outright, he may not have conceded the single, but he was trying to effect the run out of Bracey at the non-striker's end.
I don't think Bracey was out of his crease though, was he?
I must admit I didn't look, but I didn't think so.
He's on strike now as Gregory is in and bowls to, and model forward defensive shot. Back up the pitch, more shouts of encouragement. It's the most beautiful day here at Taunton, a proper spring day as well. Temperature 13.5 as I drove into the ground this morning. Just a few clouds away over the top of the Quantock Hills, the tops of which we can just see over the top of the Lord Ian Botham stand and the Colin Atkinson Pavilion as Gregory bowls to Bracey, who is beaten by a good one outside the off stump that just leaves him, goes down and gives the pitch a prod. Gregory's bowled well this morning. In fact, he bowled well last evening as well, without making the breakthrough.
That would almost seem to do too much, actually. Like you say, he's had a mixture really. There have been a couple of boundary balls, but for the most part he has been good. The difficulty is when you've got such a small number of runs, any boundary balls are tough to concede from a Somerset point of view.
He bowls now, and that's outside the off stump, and no shot from Bracey. And I have to say that in his role as a number 3, coming in pretty early on in the innings because Chris Dent was out in the 4th over, Bracey has looked a good deal more convincing as an opening batsman, or a top order batsman if you prefer, than the Somerset openers of Banton and Lammonby. Gregory in and bowls, and Bracey drives but won't get a run as it goes to Tom Banton.
I'm not sure it would be possible to get the ball through that field. They've got that forward point, they've got a conventional cover point and a backward point. They know exactly where James Bracey likes to drive the ball, and they're going to try and force him to hit through extra cover if he wants to drive the ball.
Yeah, it's a very much an offside field as Gregory is in and bowls, and Bracey drives but won't get it past Bartlett. He moves to his left at mid-off, doesn't field it cleanly but stops the ball and stops the run. End of the over. 54 for 1. The Gloucestershire score another 99 they need, so they're into double figures.
Yes, it was a fairly inauspicious way for Gloucestershire to get below the 3-figure mark in terms of runs required, and was too busy thinking about whether Bracey may have been out of his ground at the non-striker's end or not, and then whether Craig Brathwaite's bat was still intact, because he was looking at it after that shanked drive down the ground as if it may have a crack in it. Here is Overton, first ball of the new over, and Brathwaite turns that one away very comfortably out to deep square leg for a single, and Gloucestershire moved to 55 for 1, so allowing the single into the leg side, and maybe Craig Overton just thinking Brathwaite's tried to clip a couple of balls outside off stump through that region, try and tempt him into doing that again. I'm not sure either way. Brathwaite kept that one very much down and knew exactly where that one was going. Here is Overton over the wicket in bowls to Bracey, who just defensively playing that one away towards mid-wicket for no run.
Signs of Somerset pessimism on Twitter. Greg Hill from Huniston says, "Morning, Anthony." Well, morning, Greg. "I think we need a miracle to win today." Well, small miracle anyway, I think. Greg and Polly Rhodes, the Somerset scorer, reminds me, something of which I was already aware, that the last time Somerset lost here was against Yorkshire back in 2017, June 2017, when they lost by 3 runs.
Craig Overton moves in once more. He's there, bowls to Bracey. Bracey will leave. The ball maybe just moving back a little bit at him, but not enough to cause him any great concern.
That was when dear departed Dave Callaghan, Cally, the Yorkshire commentator, handed over to me when Somerset needed 4 runs for victory with their last 2 together, and Jamie Overton had batted really well on strike. Adam Lythe bowled. Jamie Overton's eyes lit up. He went to hit it into the Somerset stand and was caught at short mid-wicket, and Yorkshire had won by 3.
Craig Overton bowls short, pulled away by Bracey. He's kept that one down, and thank you, Anthony, because I couldn't see it. You have to describe the stop for me.
It was a very good stop by Jack Leach, who had to move very quickly to his right, and he did the sort of modern version of the long barrier by sliding along so that his whole body was on the ground, because that ball was really travelling.
Thames barrier maybe, or something.
It'd be the Bridgewater Surge barrier soon.
I was about to say, I'm sure there's a local version that could.
Well, we haven't got it yet, but
here comes Craig Overton. He's in, bowls to Brathwaite. Oh, Brathwaite drives uppishly, and there's a throw back at the stumps. This time Brathwaite had to go scurrying out of the way as Craig Overton threw it. He was a step down the pitch. Was Brathwaite. So I think, whilst I'm not sure Craig Overton would have done that at another time in the match, he certainly wouldn't have been warned.
It's probably just as well it didn't hit the stumps, because it could easily have ricocheted away down to third man or fine leg for runs. But he was certainly justified in having a shy.
Craig Overton in, bowls to Brathwaite. Brathwaite gets turned around there, trying to turn the ball into the leg side. Leading edge goes straight down into the ground, very fortunately for Brathwaite. He's got a little bit fortunate with both the last 2 balls, really. Previous one was an uppish looking drive, which well, I say just actually, I mean, it felt comfortably short of Craig Overton, but it was in the air for a little bit, and then that one very much turned around, leading edge of the bat, and it went into the ground. So Gloucestershire 56 for 1, and the more moments that happen like that, the more the frustration potentially builds up for Somerset, and the more that Gloucestershire pair out there and those in the dressing room, perhaps as importantly, start to feel that maybe it might be their day.
Gregory is to bowl another over, which brings me to a comment on Twitter from Simon White, who says, "Why have we broken up the Overton-Davy new ball partnership?" Very good question, Simon. I honestly don't know. They were so effective last season in the Bob Willis, were Craig Overton and Josh Davy. Not that Gregory's bowled badly by any means. He's in now and bowls, and that's driven away through the offside. Handsome shot from Bracey, and it will just beat George Bartlett to the extra cover boundary. It was over pitched from Gregory, and Bracey, who likes the off drive, made sure that he hit it well in front of square, where you've got those fielders clustered for the square drive, or the open face drive, just backward of square. That went through mid wicket.
Still a fairly compact shot, but yeah, Somerset gave him the extra cover gap and Bracey took it.
60 for 1 as Gregory is in and bowls to Bracey, who this time defends back down the pitch. Of these two batsmen, it's Bracey who's looking the more confident and secure at the moment. Brathwaite seems to be in a rather skittish mood, anxious to get on with it. There's, come on boys, that's Tom Abel, Somerset captain, who is at that backward point really. Not a catching position. We've still got the short point, 20 yards or so from the bat. That's Tom Lammonby. Gregory to Bracey, he's there, bowls, Bracey drives, but that will be cut off by a tumbling George Bartlett. Well, for the stop, not a particularly difficult stop, but he made sure again he got everything behind it. I guess that, I'm not sure who this was on Twitter, but I think it applies. It's not over until the fat dragon roars. As opposed to the fat lady singing. It's a reference to the Somerset Dragon. As Davey is in, and that's turned away through the onside. It will just be a single though, as it goes down to big Marchant de Lange down on the long leg boundary. Another run though on the board. Gloucestershire chipping away at this target. The deficit now, or the requirement rather, just 92 runs. Confidence must be growing in the Gloucestershire ranks. Somerset have failed to make the early breakthrough. They really needed to pick up a couple of wickets in the first half an hour, one would have thought. But it's not over yet. Gregory's in bowls to Brathwaite. This time plays a orthodox, solid looking defensive push into the offside.
It does show you the difference between maybe the feelings in the morning rather than in the evening. There's just something about when that day starts to close in and the evening sets in, and you just feel as if you're battling so much harder. It's hard to replicate entirely that kind of effect in the morning.
It was certainly a very tense session yesterday evening, final session, as Gregory bowls to Brathwaite, who again gets squared up, and that squirts away off the outside edge down towards third man, and good piece of fielding down there by Tom Lammonby. So it's just the single end of that over, 62 for 1. Gloucestershire 19 to Brathwaite, 33 to Bracey. These two came together when Chris Dent was out, when the score was at 10. So they have notched up the 50 partnership, and a very, very important 50 partnership for Gloucestershire it has been.
He must be a very frustrating batsman to bowl at, Craig Brathwaite, because the number of times that he will just do something like that, squirt the ball away. He's not, I don't know, you never really think of him as a kind of, I would say natural timer of the ball. I don't know if that's a bit too kind of cruel, but he's an archetypal, proper red ball opening batsman in the mould of, when you think of others that are currently out there, the likes of Dean Elgar, for example.
Dean Elgar would be a good comparison.
I guess Alistair Cook to some extent as well. Just so frustrating to bowl at, because they're so good at making those last minute adjustments that Anthony talked about, and it doesn't necessarily mean every ball's going to come out of the middle of their bats, but they're just very good at using the entire bat to their advantage. Jack Leach is into the attack, so they haven't waited too long. I wonder whether Craig Overton might change ends or whether they will make a double change. Either way, it's definitely Jack Leach, and he will bowl round the wicket to Craig Brathwaite. And as usual in the first innings, Leach taking his time before moving into bowl, and Brathwaite is immediately in a little bit of bother as he tries to turn the ball towards mid-wicket.
That was fired in by Leach. Quicker ball to start with.
Yeah, the footwork was not ultra decisive really from Brathwaite. Short leg in place, slip, short cover, as that's turned away fine by Brathwaite. He's tickled that one nicely round the corner. They'll get at least 2. They might think about a third, but no, it will just be the 2 runs. 64 now for 1. 89. No. Is that right? 89. Yep. Yes, it is 89. Yep. Sorry. Once again, I was wondering whether the number had ticked over yet, and it has. Yes, 89 more runs required to win by Gloucestershire as Leach moves in, bowls to Brathwaite, flighted and driven down the ground by Brathwaite to Marchand de Lange at mid-on. Doesn't get a run for it. De Lange once again fumbling the ball a little bit out there, but no cost runs-wise, and he did a warm-up delivery there, so maybe he's coming on. Leach bowls. That's a little short, but Brathwaite's cut cannot beat backward point, where James Hildreth is fielding it. James Hildreth has got a very different coloured cap to all the others.
It's faded on account of him having played for Somerset for the last 16, 17 seasons.
Leach bowls to Brathwaite, short and wide. He's not got away with it this time though. Brathwaite has cut that one away to James Hildreth's right at backward point, and it's away for 4 runs. Brathwaite moves to 25, Gloucestershire 68 for 1. And he missed out on the first one a little bit, but having had that one to get his eye, and that was a poor ball from Leach. He barely bowled a ball like that in the first innings at all. But that one, Brathwaite puts away to the boundary, so 85 more runs required by Gloucestershire as James Hildreth jogs back into his position at backward point, and Leach prepares to bowl the last ball of the over. Bowls full, and Brathwaite is right forward and deadening that one back to the bowler.
It is indeed. It's going to be Marchand de Lange. I think this is well, high risk strategy. I think he's got pace, but he can be erratic.
A couple of tweets to get through from me as well. Mark Halliwell, hope we can finish the job today, and to think also that Howell, Cobain, Smith, Jack Taylor, Worrell, Shaw, Hammond, Charlesworth and Warner are not playing. Gloss have real strength in depth and do not have to flog the same 11 all season. Well, they're not going to flog the same 11 for much longer, of course, because David Payne will be going on paternity leave fairly soon, so Gloucestershire will have to make a change. And then, of course, Dan Worrell will... I can't remember what the phrase that Ian Harvey used last night. I think it was something like, probably, hopefully, probably, will play in the next match. And Simon A. Taylor says, Gloucestershire member living and breathing every ball this morning. Come on the Shire.
Come on the Shire. Peter Cullen on Twitter says,
reflected.
Craig Brathwaite is exactly the sort of batsman Somerset need in their top order. I agree with that, Peter. Need a little bit of backbone in, well, not backbone, it's the wrong word, but solidity. Solidity. A little bit of reinforcement. Sort of reinforcement Dean Elgar produced when he was playing here. Or Chris Rogers. Someone like that. Experienced, orthodox opening batsman. Here's Marchand de Lange in and bowls and bouncer to James Bracey, who just ducks underneath it. Could be a interesting phase of the game, this. Tom Abel bringing on his heavy artillery, you could say, with Marchand de Lange. The quickest of the Somerset bowlers, but not always the most accurate. He's up to the wicket now and bowls, and that one is taken head high by Stephen Davis. A quick delivery, just short of a length, lifting through. No shot from Bracey.
first one was probably just a kind of a warm-up bouncer, really, because it barely got over Bracey's duck, really, and that one, however, was certainly not sent down with that same lack of venom.
Is Delanger in and bowls to Bracey, and Bracey drops that into the offside. Tom Abel goes sprinting round from third slip to do the fielding. He's a never say die character, is Big Marchant, Somerset speed Marchant, the Marchant of Menace, as he's been dubbed on Twitter. I do wish I could claim credit for that, but it's not me. Here he is now, into bowl to Bracey. Bracey cuts that away, handsome shot. There was just a little bit of width there, and Bracey, with a wristy back cut shot, sent it racing away between gully and the slips for 4 runs. Can't afford, at the pace that he's bowling, he can't afford anything loose, Marchant Delanger, because it will be pounced on by both of these batsmen. 72 for 1. The target reduced to 81 as Delanger is in, bowls to Bracey, who won't get a run this time, as it's fielded by Banton in the covers. Marchant Delanger picked up 4 wickets in the first innings. Bowled pretty well. Good combination, pace at one end and spin at the other, but pitch not offering much in the way of assistance to either. Delanger is in and bowls outside the off stump again. Good pace through to Davies, but no need for Bracey to play a shot at that. So 4 runs from the over, 72 for 1 at the end of it. Bracey on 37, Brathwaite on 25, and I must say these two Gloucestershire batsmen have gone about their business in a very good way this morning. Pragmatic, assertive. They won't be dominated by the bowling, and they played and missed a few times, but by and large the bat has been on top this morning, Somerset having failed to make the early breakthrough that they were so desperately anxious to secure.
Yeah, I think last night maybe there was maybe a little bit of indecision about how to go about it, possibly. I mean, you have to give a lot of credit to the way that Somerset bowled yesterday evening. They bowled a tremendous spell, both of the openers. But today there's certainly been no indecision at all in terms of how they should be going about it. Leach to continue. Bowls now to Brathwaite. Brathwaite whips this one away through mid-wicket, and it's away for 4 runs. So Jack Leach is not landing the ball like he was in the first innings, that is for sure.
Didn't land that at all, did he?
No.
It was a full toss.
Wristy work from Brathwaite and made sure he didn't pick out the fielder, and picks up another boundary. So Gloucestershire almost halfway to the total required. I suppose they're halfway to a tie, but certainly wouldn't settle for that from this position.
No.
Fielder out at deep mid-wicket now for Jack Leach, and short leg has come out already, so mid-wicket effectively pushed back and then short leg taken out, so just the slip in place as far as close catches as Leach bowls, and Brathwaite's forward and playing with a dead bat out into the short mid-wicket region.
I don't know if it's me. We're not at the ideal angle, but it just seems to be bowling a bit too much leg side at the moment, Jack Leach, to the right-handed Brathwaite.
Is in, bowls, and it's very straight, and once more Brathwaite is able just to roll the wrists on it and keep it down, and of course without the short leg in place he doesn't have to be so ultra careful about playing Jack Leach that way. Leach bowls, that's a little better from Leach, a little more towards off stump, and Brathwaite this time has to play out onto the offside towards short extra cover, and there is no run as Leach at the end of his run tossing the ball hand to hand bowls, and Brathwaite is forward once more, playing quietly out into the cover region. Treating each ball on its merit at the moment is Craig Brathwaite. Last ball of the over. Leach bowls to Brathwaite. Brathwaite is in behind that one once more and rolling it up the pitch for Leach to field off his own bowling. Ends the over. 4 runs from it. Gloucestershire 76 for 1. They need 77 more runs to win, still with those 9 wickets intact.
Yeah, Gloucestershire's morning so far as the sanitisation brigade come onto the field. There was an interesting piece in the Sunday Times today about all of this disinfection wipes and sanitisation and so on, which basically said that contact with the virus on surfaces such as cricket balls and stumps and bails is a vanishingly small proportion of the number of COVID infections that there have been around the world. But nonetheless, we are where we are in terms of the protocols, and hopefully it won't be much longer before we can get back to something like normal and crowds can return to watch enthralling games of cricket such as this has been, and there may yet still be a further twist. Gloucestershire going along comfortably at the moment, but a couple of wickets could change all of that. Nerves could set in, as James Hildreth suggested to me last evening. But for the moment, these two Gloucestershire batsmen ruling the roost, batting very sensibly, picking off the bad balls, dealing with the good ones. Marchant de Lange taking his time to arrive at the end of his mark.
He's taking his time. I also noticed that the board says 1 on the over rate. So
well,
I suppose that when the total gets lowered down, they can hustle through the overs potentially if that does happen, but maybe it won't happen.
De Lange bowls outside the off stump. No shot from Bracey. De Lange in his second over. His first over went for that 4, and some back cut by Bracey, who's dealt with the moving ball pretty well. His most anxious moment was the very first ball that he received, which he nicked just short of slip, as this is turned away into the onside. Well, if it wasn't the first ball, I think perhaps he played and missed at his first ball. But he certainly got an edge to delivery from Craig Overton, which dropped just short of Hildreth at first slip and produced a great roar of frustration from Craig Overton, which could probably have been heard at Kingston St Mary, away there at the foot of the Quantocks. Can't actually see Kingston St Mary at the moment. We can just see the top of the spire of St Andrew's Church here in Taunton, as that's turned into the onside comfortably enough by Brathwaite for another single. 78 for 1, Gloucestershire. And I can almost feel the tension ebbing out of this contest at the moment, as these two go efficiently about their business on a pitch that is still giving the quicker bowlers a certain amount of help, as De Lange, a great wrench of his shoulders, bowls that. Used to be a javelin thrower, apparently, according to Ed Seaborn here, who knows everything there is to know about Marchant de Lange. And he bowls like a javelin thrower. It's all in the shoulders, a bit like Jeff Thompson from the old days. It's not as pronounced or dramatic as Thompson, but it's still the shoulder that produces the pace as that whistles through to Stephen Davis, and Tom Abel keeps up this relentless chorus of encouragement to his big fast bowler.
I would say that it was probably the loudest warm-up I've ever heard this morning. A Somerset's game of footy before the before the game started. I've never heard such a loud game of football.
Here's De Lange in bowls to Bracey, and has him in a certain amount of difficulty there to a ball just short of a length. It's lifted on Bracey, but dealt with it very efficiently. It's the end of the over. It's 78 for 1. Gloucestershire have passed the halfway stage in their run chase. They now need just 75 more runs to record their first victory against the old enemy since 2006. But then they've only actually, I think, played the old enemy 3 times since then, twice in 2007 and once last year in the Bob Willis. So it isn't as if Somerset have dominated their local rivals over a very long period of time. And in fact, if you look historically, Gloucestershire have had much the better of things.
Leach continues bowling to Brathwaite now, and Brathwaite whips this one just wide of mid-on, and that's a good tumbling stop there at mid-on to make sure that they couldn't come through for a quick single. Is that Tom Abel at mid-on there?
Quite possibly.
I think it might be a slightly different position from where he has been. That's short and cut away, and Brathwaite's found the gap once more at point, and that is flying away to the boundary for another 4. Well, Jack Leach, I think now you can definitely say he's bowled more bad balls in this 2+ over spell than he did in his entire 29 over spell in the first innings. He's just not quite been at it. Here has Jack Leach. Brathwaite moves up to 34. 71 more required by Gloucestershire as Leach bowls to Brathwaite, and Brathwaite is forward and playing softly out towards mid-wicket, and there's no run. Brathwaite hasn't necessarily historically been the greatest player of spin with respect to pace, as Leach flights this one, but outside off stump. Comfortable leave by Brathwaite. I don't actually have the splits between spin and pace, but what I do have are his splits as innings goes along in the match. As Leach bowls to Brathwaite, Brathwaite forward playing back up the pitch. So in the first innings of the match, he averages over 45 in Test cricket. Second innings of the match, 38.5. Third innings, it's down to 25.5, and fourth innings, 21. As Leach bowls, and Brathwaite turns that one away behind square on the leg side. And I'm sure there are not that many batsmen who get better as the match goes along, but at the same time, that is quite a stark difference between 45 and 21, first to fourth innings, and then overall in terms of team innings, 41 for the first innings and 23.5 for the second innings. And then you look at where he's scored his runs, it's Australia, England, South Africa, where he's been most prolific actually, and struggling more in the subcontinent in general. So an indication really is that actually he's a good player for county cricket, and he likes these conditions, as we've talked about a bit before with his numbers in county cricket. 82 for 1, Gloucestershire, they need 71 more.
Marchant de Lange bowls to Bracey, who gets an inside edge to an attempted off drive. A harrow cut down to long leg, picks up a single for it, but full shot, first full shot really for some time, 83 for 1. Listening to commentary on this LV Insurance County Championship game in Group 2 between Somerset and Gloucestershire. From myself, Anthony Gibson, with Ed Seaborn on BBC 5 Live Sports Extra, BBC Radio Bristol, Gloucestershire and Somerset. Marchant de Lange is in, and that's turned firmly away through the onside. It's running away to the boundary. There's a good stop retrieved by Tom Lammonby, sends in a good left-handed return as well, but they have come back for 3 runs. Bracey rehearses the shot. Didn't quite time it as he would have liked. Just 70 runs the requirement now, as de Lange is into Brathwaite. Brathwaite gets on top of the bounce. A ball just short of a length from DeLanger. Feel that Brathwaite would like to get after DeLanger. If he drops one in short, we've got a deep backward square leg, but no deep mid-wicket. We've got a fielder just in front of the square leg umpire, but it's an predominantly offside field as DeLanger is in and bowls, and that's played into the onside. There's a shy at the stumps by Lammonby, doesn't hit, and James Bracey had retreated in time.
Almost overcommitted to the single there, did Bracey. Brathwaite understandably not interested at all from his vantage point.
Good piece of fielding by Lammonby. Had to move quickly to his left. DeLanger is in and bowls. This is outside the off stump, driven, but only as far as George Bartlett. But, extra cover. He's playing very positively, Craig Brathwaite. He's looking for these attacking shots. He's not going into his shell. Both of these. If you'd asked me what Brathwaite's natural game was before this game, I would have said it was a good deal more defensive than the way he's played in both innings. This is DeLanger outside the off stump. Whereas Bracey, you know that you're going to see some nice shots. He's not purely a defensive player by any means at all. Very effective one-day player, of course. End of that over. 85 for 1. Another 68 runs Gloucestershire need. And we've had just about the first hour, so they have moved on. They've scored 57 runs in the first hour, which is pretty good going, and at that rate this could be over by lunchtime.
Well, we shall see. So often it moves on quite quickly when it gets down to 20 or 30, as really the bowling side tends not to believe at that point, but we'll see. Somerset will possibly keep fighting until the very last run is scored. We're not quite still at the stage yet where can be thinking about that. It's still at the stage where a couple of wickets could potentially cause some alarm bells. Jack Leach will bowl to Bracey, and he will do that from over the wicket with the short leg back in place for James Bracey as Leach bowls. Flights that one. Oh, and that's gone through. That's gone through everything, and it will go for, I think, 4 runs.
4 byes, I think.
It is 4 byes. So it missed everything, and the ball looked like it turned a little, and it went through the gate really as Bracey tried to drive. I didn't know whether he'd got a little inside edge on it or not, but apparently not. 4 byes, 4 runs for Gloucestershire, but that's a lot better from Leach.
Just a little bit of turn from the bowler's footmarks outside the left-hander's off stump, and Bracey obscuring Stephen Davis's view, but he'll still be annoyed at having conceded those 4 byes.
Leach is there, he bowls to Bracey. Bracey forward and deadening that one up towards cover.
First time that Bracey has faced Leach in this innings, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, certainly this morning. Leach didn't bowl last night, did he?
No.
No.
It was a good battle between the two in the first innings. Leach makes Bracey wait as he moves into bowl. Reverse sweep from Bracey, and he doesn't get very much on that, and first slip does the fielding. So the reverse sweep has not worked particularly well for James Bracey against Jack Leach. He's tried 3, 2 of them haven't worked at all, and the other one ended up not timed particularly well straight to deep point for a single. That was in the first innings when he played those other 2 reverses. As here is Leach, he's there, bowls, turned away and short of short leg, but enough for an ooh and an ah. They certainly feel interested with those footmarks, which if you are watching on the stream you can see the footmarks quite clearly that Leach is bowling into. They are fairly pronounced, So Bracey certainly with a lot more to worry about than Brathwaite, that's for sure. As Leach bowls, sweep shot from Bracey, and once more the attacking intentions were there from Bracey, but the ball has ricocheted off him and down into the short leg region. So he's trying to attack.
He is. It's curious. I mean, Leach is looking much more effective against the left-hander than he did against the right-handed batsman.
Certainly. Leach to complete the over. Bowls. Bracey clips that one to mid-wicket more confidently this time, but doesn't pick up a run for it. It's a maiden over, but there were 4 byes off it, so 64 more runs required by Gloucestershire, and despite Somerset's best efforts, they've not managed to break this partnership between Bracey and Brathwaite, which is worth 79 now.
We're going to have, I think Craig Overton's going to come back into the attack from the Marcus Trescothick Pavilion end. I'm surprised that they haven't given Josh Davey a go.
I think the fact that DeLanger came back before Davey shows you that Somerset don't... It's almost as though they don't believe that there is enough movement in this pitch to get Gloucestershire out, and it's almost as though they decided they needed to go for the short pitch stuff rather than try and move it about.
No, it's not Overton. It's DeLanger to bowl another over. He's in bowls to Brathwaite, who is bowled. Under edge, middle stump out of the ground. It was a loose shot from Brathwaite, who'd been batting so sensibly. He went after a wide one outside the off stump, got an under edge and lost his middle stump. So a breakthrough for Somerset. Brathwaite bowled by March and DeLanger for 36, and Gloucestershire are now 89 for 2.
Well, once more a promising start from Craig Brathwaite. It leads you to believe that there are plenty of runs in there, but he'll be very frustrated with that. It was a wide ball, really quite wide, and he's managed to drag that from all the way out there onto the stumps. But hard to say unlucky, really, when he played a very similar shot early on in his innings and flashed and missed at it. And really, if he'd shelved that particular shot, then he would have been in no trouble at all, really, out there, other than a couple of tremendous deliveries from Craig Overton that would have beaten anybody. But that shot, I suspect, is one which he may well be working on in the nets, and possibly working on in terms of leaving a delivery like that rather than playing at it. And well, it does open the door, but it will be up to Tom Lace to try to make sure that the door is very much closed.
Well, the decision to bring March and DeLanger into the attack as opposed to Josh Davey has been vindicated with that wicket of Brathwaite. If Somerset could pick up another wicket pretty quickly, preferably that of James Bracey, then they, well, I wouldn't say they're necessarily back in it, because Gloucestershire still only needs 64 runs with 8 wickets in hand, and they bat, as we saw in the first innings, really all the way round, all the way down rather. Here's DeLanger then to Lace. He's in and bowls, and bowls a bouncer, a quick bouncer, and Lace manages to avoid it, but with some difficulty. And I think the Big South African gave him the benefit of some advice as to how to play the bouncer.
That was a wonderful bouncer, it really was. Perfectly directed, spitting off the pitch towards Tom Lace's helmet. And he got underneath it, but he didn't make that duck look very easy at all. Is
DeLanger in again, bowls to Lace, and again, this is not such a good bouncer. But it's always great fun when a genuinely fast bowler is operating, and a genuinely fast bowler, in this instance, with his tail up, having got that, from his perspective, rather fortuitous wicket from Craig Brathwaite. The dismissal owed everything to the batsman and not much to the bowler. As DeLanger is in and bowls, and Lace calmly defends, or at least he gives the impression of calm. I'm sure his heart is beating 19 to the dozen underneath his Gloucestershire cricket sweater.
He's loving every moment of this, is Marchand de Lange. He's got smiles on his face. He's charging in, full pace up. Action is looking great.
It's not a long run up, it's a muscular run up. He's there and bowls and turns Lace around, and it squirts out into the onside. Banton is there to field it, comes charging in. Somerset have been re-energised, revitalised by that wicket of Brathwaite. And you can hear from the noise being made by Tom Abel and others that they reckon they're back in it. As Lace pushes this into the offside. There was probably a single there, but decided against it. So a successful over for Somerset, and goodness me, didn't they need a success if any life was to be re-injected into this game. Still Gloucestershire's to lose at 89 for 2 with 64 required, but Somerset have given themselves just the smallest chink of hope.
Yeah, and especially with the way that Leach bowled to Bracey in that last over, causing him some real problems with that rough, and it was easy, I think, for Bracey to decide to go on the attack whilst Brathwaite was out there, but now Bracey can't afford to get out, so Leach probably knows that he can bowl with more freedom, which may well mean that he lands it in exactly the right spot every time now. Short leg in place, slip, and a catching mid-wicket. Everybody else is on the virtual 30-yard circle. Here is Leach. He's in, he bowls to Bracey, and that's over-pitched a little, but Bracey doesn't really manage to time his drive and hits it straight to cover. There's no run. Tom Abel prowling at cover and clapping once more. He must have red hands by the end of his day's work, I should think, as Leach bowls and Bracey goes a little tentatively back. Leach has come a long way down, and the throw will not be in time to get Lace, but that was very edgy stuff from Tom Lace, who, like you said, there may well have been a single off the last ball of the previous over, and then he looked for a single there that certainly wasn't on. Yeah, the nerves are certainly out there now, as the reverse sweep is cracked away just as I say that by Bracey to the deep backward point boundary for 4, and Bracey must be thinking, at last, I knew I could play that shot. 4 runs to him, and he moves to 43. Gloucestershire 93 for 2, and it was a little too full really from Leach. He missed the foot marks, both in terms of being too full and just ever so slightly too straight, and it turned out to be the perfect ball really to play the reverse sweep to. 60 runs required by Gloucestershire to win, as Bracey has moved into the 40s with his 7th boundary as Leach bowls. And oh, what's that come off? Inside edge, is it, or is it pad down towards the fine leg boundary? Hildreth is after it. They will come back for 2.
Bat.
It was bat. So
yeah,
a little touch, but well, you could put a leg slip in, especially with that rough. It was very much inside edge, and the ball was actually really around about middle and off or so. Slice of good fortune, yes, but why not have a leg slip in? Leach bowls, Bracey sweeps and sweeps with excellent timing. He's got it backward of square, and it's 4 more runs. That was not a good ball from Leach. It was heading down the leg side, and Gloucestershire now 99 for 2. Bracey moving up to 49. He actually, I say it was too far down the leg side, but Bracey did move quite a long way across, so he made it into a ball that was too far down the leg side.
I think he's decided to take this by the scruff of the neck, as James Bracey.
It's a bold strategy, but it has paid off so far by reducing the runs required now down to 54, as Leach in to complete the over, bowls to Bracey full, and Bracey forward and deadening that one out towards cover. So Bracey has taken 10 runs off that over, and with Lace obviously feeling a little bit under pressure, and understandably so, because he's got a Merchant of Menace charging at him. he's taken a lot of the pressure off Tom Lace there by scoring 10 runs in that over, and I'm sure making Tom Lace feel better for standing at the non-strikers end and watching Bracey play those shots there. 54 more runs needed by Gloucestershire, still 8 wickets left intact.
Yeah, I think Bracey decided that it was time to prick the Somerset balloon, which had been re-inflated after the wicket of Brathwaite. And this is down the leg side through to Stephen Davis. And of course, Leach and Bracey must be pretty familiar with each other, and for all the time they spent in the England bubble, and no doubt they spent a good deal of that time in the nets.
Yes, well, it's why I asked
Leach bowling to Bracey.
Why I asked Bracey after his century about that particular battle, because of that fact.
Here's DeLange in and bowls, and this is driven nicely by Lace, but can't get a run.
And he said that he would have never heard the end of it if he'd got out to him, so he was extra determined to see him out, and he really did see him out. There were very few attacking shots played by Bracey in that century against Jack Leach.
Here's DeLange bustling in. He's there now and bowls, and Lace plays that down to backward point. It's fielded by George Bartlett. Both West Country boys, of course. James Bracey from Bristol, and Jack Leach from Taunton. A lot of Somerset people feel that Somerset missed out with James Bracey. But, coming from Bristol, he could just as easily have come to Somerset as to Gloucestershire. As this is a compact defensive shot from Tom Lace. But, very committed to Gloucestershire now is James Bracey, and a huge asset.
It is
you
north,
must
north
have
Bristol, I suppose, really, isn't it? Winterbourne.
It is, that's
club.
quite true. But you must have mixed feelings about
North
James
of Bristol, really.
Bracey's England prospects, because he obviously is an England prospect, as Marchant DeLange is in and bowls, short, and Lace ducks underneath it. But if he's in the England setup, he isn't going to be playing much for Gloucestershire, and he would be a big loss, wouldn't he? He's played beautifully in this innings.
It's hard to say, isn't it, where he stands currently with regards to the likes of Lawrence, for example. I mean, you would still say probably on a body of work that he is behind Lawrence, but it may only take a season for that to change.
DeLange bowls a Yorker. James Hildreth at first lets out a roar with his hands above his head. Good ball from Marchant DeLange, well dealt with by Tom Lace. That was a maiden over. Remains on 99 for 2. I must say I've seen quite a bit of Dan Lawrence, and I would say that Bracey's the better player of the two, not by much, but he's got no obvious weaknesses, and I've been very impressed with the way he has batted against the new ball, particularly in this innings.
Well, I think in some ways, sometimes you think that somebody moving up to open who you'd probably rather have at 3 or 4 isn't necessarily a good thing, but I think it has, the innings that Bracey's played opening the batting has really helped him, because you know, a lot of the time he has been out there effectively opening the batting, even when he hasn't been. Leach is ready, and he's now in to bowl to Bracey, who paddle sweeps with good control. James Hildreth is running around to cut it off before it reaches the fine leg boundary, and there are 2 runs taken, and James Bracey raises his bat for a half century. It has been James Bracey's match, that is for sure. He's added a 50 to the 118 he scored in the first innings. He's raced through the 40s and on to 50 from his 84th ball, and he's struck 8 fours in his innings. And you could argue really that this 50 has been as valuable as the century was in the first innings in terms of steadying things for Gloucestershire once they lost their skipper early last night. Leach bowls to Bracey, and Bracey tries to turn that one into the leg side and gets turned around rather by that one, and not sure what happened there, whether something in James Bracey's eye, or whether the helmet just got a little bit dislodged by him. I'm not exactly sure. He took his helmet off anyway, but now he's not ready. Maybe he's perspiring a little under there. Here comes Leach, bowls to Bracey, turned away, timed decently, but straight to mid-wicket, and there's no run. And Leach still, he may be just bowling a little bit too straight, not necessarily bowling it wide enough to use those foot marks. He bowls, down the pitch comes Bracey, and he has whacked that one past the outstretched hand of Leach. He didn't necessarily get that. He hit it hard, but he didn't get the elevation I suspect he wanted, and that could have been I suppose it would have been an absolutely spectacular return catch had it been ever so slightly closer to Leach, but he hit it so hard Leach barely had time to react, and that's 4 runs to Bracey. 105 for 2 are Gloucestershire, and the runs required under 50. 48 to be precise. So here is Leach. How will he respond? And he'll respond well with a straight delivery, which Bracey, I'm not sure he was meaning really to do that. It just dropped down on the bounce towards slip. Last ball of the over, and Leach is in once more to bowl. Reverse sweep, and he's got that one away. He's beaten backward point, and that is racing towards the boundary rope, and it will get there. So 4 more. Bracey is tucking into Jack Leach here, and Tom Lace still hasn't scored, but he hasn't really needed to so far. The delivery was not a bad one from Jack Leach, I wouldn't say, but Bracey got the reverse sweep away, and he got it away in the exact area that he would have wanted. Not trying to hit it too hard, just kind of dabbed it round the corner really, and that means that Gloucestershire require 44 more runs to win.
Yep, and James Bracey isn't going to hang around. He's adopting the same sort of approach that Lewis Gregory did in chasing down that 285 that Somerset got against Middlesex. Marchant de Lange, though, is going to be bowling to Tom Lace. He's in and bowls, and that's down the leg side, and Lace misses out. If he just got something on that. Long leg is wide, away in front of the scoreboard, so there's plenty of opportunity for just a nick down to fine leg to pick up 4 runs. Still a bit baffled as to why Josh Davey hasn't been given a go. He's standing there at mid-off, looks perfectly fit. De Lange in bowls, and again it's down the leg side.
Just looking elsewhere in the country, Middlesex have collapsed this morning, and Hampshire are now only 1 wicket away from claiming their second victory in as many matches. And it's been Abbott and Holland for them. Each have 3 wickets, so Hampshire moving towards victory. And meanwhile at Chelmsford, Durham 108 for 7, requiring 60 more runs to win.
Groan. Here we've got De Lange bowling to Lace, and Lace drives firmly, but it's cut off by Josh Davey at mid-off.
And the other match in this group, Surrey versus Leicestershire. Leicestershire are basically having to bat for the entire day to survive for a draw in that one, and they are currently 82 for 2, trailing Surrey by 215 runs.
Marchant de Lange to Lace, and that's pushed into the offside, and it evades the dive of George Bartlett at extra cover, and they have come back just for 2 runs. In fact, it wasn't George Bartlett, that's Tom Banton. He was rather slow to get down to that, I thought. Wasn't hit particularly well by Lace. Didn't really time it. retrieved by Josh Davey. 2 runs go on the board, and Lace is off the mark. 111 for 2. DeLanger bowls to him. And this again is on leg stump, turned into the onside, and it's a no ball. Things going from bad to worse for Somerset at the moment. 113 for 2, just maybe trying a little bit too hard.
Yeah, he can be prone to bowling no balls, can DeLanger, and I think, like you say, it is when he just extends and does try that little bit too hard, and he didn't bowl a single one in the first innings, which is, you know, it reflects really the way that he bowled.
He's there again now and bowls to Lace, a bouncer, good bouncer, and Lace this time just squats down underneath it. We've got these 2 short mid-wickets for the short ball from Martin DeLanger, and angled in at the right-hander's body, which he just pops up into the onside. That's the theory in any way. In any case, DeLanger bowls another bouncer, and Lace is declining to oblige. He's not falling into the trap that has been set for him. It was a pretty obvious trap, it has to be said, and he's just ducked under those 2 short balls. End of that over. 113 for 2. 2 to Lace, and James Bracey on 59.
Both Roses counties moving towards victories as well on the final day. Yorkshire need 5 more Kent wickets to win. Kent no chance with 346 more, and Northamptonshire are in a similar but slightly worse position at 96 for 6, requiring 329 runs to win. So looks like victories for both Yorkshire and Lancashire. Glamorgan and Sussex. Glamorgan are 317 for 6 with a lead of 121, so it could be an interesting chase at Cardiff later on. And Warwickshire and Notts, it's been a good game there. Warwickshire need 193 more, but they have 7 wickets in hand at 140 for 3, and at the moment Derbyshire and Worcestershire seem to be heading towards a draw. Leach to continue, who bowls to Bracey, who plays with a straight bat down the ground, and Leach moves across quickly to do the fielding. So it doesn't seem as if there will be a lot of draws this round, and who knows, maybe if Worcestershire collapse, there may not be a draw at all.
Craig Overton being sent back to the long on boundary.
Leach is there, bowls, and Bracey turns that one away calmly towards mid-wicket, wide mid-wicket, and doesn't pick up a run for it.
I agree with you, Ed. I think they should have a leg slip. They've got to take wicket, Somerset.
Leach coming round the wicket now to Bracey, who paddle sweeps right where the leg slip would have been, and that is away for 4 runs. Nothing that James Hildreth can do about that. Bracey to 63, Gloucestershire 117 for 2, requiring only 36 more, and regardless of which angle you're bowling from, especially when Leach was bowling over the wicket with that rough, and now they have put the leg slip in the horse.
Horse is in the middle distance. The clang you can hear is the stable door banging shut.
So leg slip instead of short leg, as Leach is there, bowls to Bracey, and Bracey plays softly away into the leg side for no run.
I mean, there's no guarantee he would have played that paddle sweep if the leg slip had been there, but it would have cut off a scoring option. And
it serves a dual purpose, really, doesn't
absolutely.
it? It takes away the paddle sweep as Leach bowls to Bracey full, and that's run away gently off the outside edge by Bracey towards backward point, and deep backward point comes in to do the fielding, just be a single. Bracey moving to 64, 118 for 2, just 35 more runs required by Gloucestershire, and not only does it take away the paddle sweep, it also means they've got to be much more careful about turning quietly away to leg for fear of getting an inside edge and getting out. I love the leg slip for the spinner, just think it so often it produces wickets. Lace on strike to Leach, and Lace comes forward and pushes away to cover. That's the only ball that he's going to face in the over, and the score remains at the end of the over, 118 for 2. Gloucestershire 35 runs to win. Somerset need somehow to take 8 wickets.
Last throw of the dice time, I think, with Craig Overton coming back into the attack from this Marcus Trescothick pavilion end. He's led the attack in this game, as he did up at Lords and as he did so successfully in the Bob Willis last season. Hasn't had a huge amount of luck, I think it would be fair to say, and particularly in the manner of plays and misses. But if anyone is going to pick up a couple of wickets for Somerset and just inject some uncertainty into the Gloucestershire batting ranks, it's this man. All 6'5" of him down below us now, just tossing the ball in his left hand while Tom Abel puts the finishing touches to his field. We've got 2 slips as Overton is in to bowl to Bracey, who has appeal for LBW, but belated appeal on the part of Craig Overton. Didn't seem to have very much going for it. That hit Bracey quite high up and probably going down leg side as well. Go on, Trago, shouts Tom Abel from his fielding position at mid-off. Here comes Overton in and bowls, and play and a miss, drive and a miss from Bracey, who chastises himself as walking away towards the square leg umpire.
He's just teasing Craig Overton, clearly. not that Craig Overton needs any more teasing. He has, I agree, he's been unlucky and he's bowled terrifically well. And it's surprising, actually, to see even his economy rate at 3.5 and over. It feels like he's barely given anything away somehow.
He's there now and bowls, and Bracey gets the full face of the bat on that one, picked up by George Bartlett, running from cover point towards extra cover.
I've really never not been impressed with Craig Overton when I've watched him bowl. I watched him bowl, I suppose, a fair bit, but I can't really remember a particularly bad spell even.
He's in now, bowls to Bracey, drives firmly, but only as far as Tom Abel.
I think just occasionally, and it probably happened more so out in Australia, just sometimes on a pitch that's perhaps not offering very much, sometimes hitting that hard length, and the Australian batsmen who are used to facing that kind of bowling, they made it look easier. But I don't think I've ever seen him bowl a bad spell, to be honest.
This is driven back to the bowler, who fields and doesn't threaten to throw the stumps down. Good sharp piece of fielding to his own bowling. Yeah, I mean, he spent quite a lot of time in the England bubble last summer and emerged from it a quicker bowler, yard and a half quicker, and it's really made all the difference. He's in bowls to Bracey, who is clearly looking to attack, but not being given the opportunity to by Craig Overton. It was a good over from the big Devonian, a maiden over, 10 overs, 2 maidens, 1 for 32. Craig Overton, but James Bracey is still there. And as long as he is, then Gloucestershire are going to chase down the 153 they need pretty comfortably. They've just lost the 1 wicket this morning, that of Craig Brathwaite, who chased after a wide one from Marchant de Lange, got an under edge and lost his middle stump for 36. Otherwise, it's been James Bracey and Gloucestershire all the way.
And I suppose we've talked a bit about Bracey versus the likes of Lawrence. I suppose for Craig Overton, his sort of competition is sort of, I suppose, people like Ollie Robinson, for example. Ollie Robinson's another bowler who's tall and, I mean, not express pace, but decent pace, and looks to bowl. I mean, he can bowl full like Craig Overton can and swing the ball, but he can also bowl back of a length. I must say I'm a huge fan of Ollie Robinson. That is the Sussex Ollie Robinson, that is, of course, rather than the Kent one, although I think he's a talented cricketer as well. But Leach to continue. Lace is on strike. 35 runs required by Gloucestershire. Leach round the wicket, making Lace wait for a very long time here, as he loses his run-up after all that. So
I think he's just remembered, Jack Leach, about not bowling his overs too quickly and making the batsman wait a bit, which was something he was doing in the first innings, and really hasn't so far in this second.
Leach bowls. Ooh, that's an outside edge really from Lace, who I think his footwork would suggest that he was attempting to turn leg side, and at the last minute decided he'd actually better play more offside-ish, and it was edgily played out towards backward point, and there's no run. The over rate, by the way, is back to level now, so no worries about that for Somerset. Oh, that's struck on the pad, is it? And it's not out.
Umpire Illingworth thought long and hard about that, you know.
He did, and it was certainly full, that's for sure. Don't know whether he got an inside edge or whether it just didn't turn. He's very far back, and it's hit him around about middle and leg stump or so. Here comes Leach, bowls to Lace. Lace is forward and driving away up towards mid-off and straight to mid-off. Not much timing there. I think it was going on with the arm, but because Lace was so far back, it was a good shout, but declined. As Leach tosses this one up, and that's pushed away just wide of mid-wicket this time by Tom Lace, who's certainly not going to give his wicket away, and there's no reason really for him to play any way other than the way he's playing at the moment, with Bracey doing the majority of the work in terms of run scoring. Nice flight from Leach, but Lace with solid bat on it, driving away up to mid-on, and there's no run. Leach has bowled 7.5 overs for 39 as he completes this over. Bowls, and Lace drives not off the middle of the bat by any stretch, away towards cover. So it is a maiden over for Leach. Gloucestershire played out a couple of maidens in a row now. 118 for 2 the score remains. They still require 35 runs to win.
Yeah, Jack Leach has sort of settled into his groove in the last few overs. He was a little bit loose early on in this spell, a couple of long hops and a half volley and indeed a full toss, but there was nothing wrong with that over to Tom Lace, offering him really nothing. Craig Overton's going to bowl another over from this Somerset Pavilion end. He's bowling to the hero of the hour for Gloucestershire, James Bracey. Gets in a bit of a tangle against ball just short of a length from Craig Overton. Might have been a single there.
It's the second time actually that Bracey has done that with Lace at the other end. I think it was the same in the first innings, where Bracey plays it into an area where it looks like it's Bracey's call, and then he puts out his glove as if to say, do you want to run?
Yeah.
And both times with Lace at the other end.
They don't seem to have the best of understandings.
They don't, it seems.
These two. Overton's in a bowls and won't be a single here, as Bartlett's quickly onto it from cover point. 118 for 2, 35 more runs needed. We've got about 25 minutes up to lunch. I think the umpires can take an extra half an hour, can't they?
If they believe that the result would be achieved in that time, yeah.
So unless there is a remarkable clatter of wickets, I think this will be finished before whenever lunch actually is. Is Overton in and bowls, and this is played away down to fine leg, and 4 runs it is, with Marchant de Lange patrolling the boundary at a much squarer position. That went down to the eastern end of the river stand, what used to be the Marcus Trescothick stand before Marcus moved on to greater things here in the Marcus Trescothick Pavilion, as we are. So that's 4 runs to James Bracey. He moves on to this is driven back down the ground, and an unavailing, well, he just managed to get a hand to that, did Tom Abel. He saved his side 3 runs there. Brilliant piece of fielding, because that was hit hard by Bracey, and he just managed to get fingertips on it, and that they got a single.
More hesitation between the two as to whether they might come back for a second run. Bracey had what looked like a bit of a glare down towards the other end there. I think Bracey certainly feels as though he doesn't get the calling that he wants from Tom Lace, but anyway, I'm sure it will arrive as they bat together more.
123 for 2, 30 more required. Overton bowls to Lace, who don't think plays at that. Just kept his bat inside the line of a ball, lifting and leaving him outside off stump.
Anthony, cover your ears now. Durham are 121 for 9, requiring 47 more runs to win.
Well,
Incredible victory that would be for Essex after getting bowled out for 96 in the first innings.
here's Overton into Lace, who defends into the offside, picked up by Tom Banton. End of that over. It is 123 for 2, 69 to James Bracey. Just the 2 to Tom Lace. 30 more. Gloucester required to record their first victory against their old West Country enemies since 2006. And that was at Bristol. It'll be their first away victory since Bath in 1999. And it'll be their first victory here in Taunton since 1993. But as I was saying, historically I haven't got the figures in front of me, but Gloucestershire have had the better of the encounters between these two sides over the years, over the decades, going right back to 1891.
Well, no leg slip, but there is a short, fine leg, quite fine, for the paddle shot. Here is Leach. He's in, he bowls to Bracey, reverse sweep. Oh, and that was almost a brilliant catch by Gregory from slip, who anticipated the reverse sweep and had a swipe at it across his body, one-handed with his right hand, but it just eluded him, and it's 2 runs as Josh Davey does the fielding from third man. Bracey on to 71, 125 for 2. You see that more and more nowadays, those slip catches and the slips anticipating the reverse sweep moving across. I can remember Ricky Clark taking an incredible catch in that regard. Like that, I think, really, one-handed across the body.
But it does have to, the shot does have to be telegraphed a bit by the batsman, doesn't it? It takes some time to get himself into position to play it. So first slip can see what's going to happen. Good effort by Gregory.
28 more runs required by Gloucestershire as Leach bowls. Bracey reverse sweeps, attempts to, and doesn't get anything on it as it goes through to Stephen Davies. Mixed success with the reverse sweep for Bracey. He plays the shot a lot in one-day cricket. Now Gregory's saying, shall I come out of slip? And he's going to. He's going to come out of slip and move into short third man.
I don't see the point of that.
I don't agree with that at all.
They've got to take wickets. It's no good keeping the runs down.
But he's not going to play that shot if you put there. Do you want him not playing the reverse sweep when he's missed the reverse sweep several times? Here comes Leach. He's in. He bowls to Bracey. Bracey just nurdles that one away into the point region, and the sweeper out on the rope will cut it off. It'll just be a single. 72 for Bracey, 126 for 2, and there's the option once you take away the reverse sweep, really, and the region there was left wide open. And Bracey just content to tick the board further down. Leach to the right-hander now round the wicket, in bowls to Lace. Lace drives up towards mid-on, and they won't pick up a run there. Mid-on was set temptingly deep to see whether they might think about taking a single, but they've decided, I think rightly, not to. Leach will move in once more. He's there, he bowls. And that's clipped away by Lace. There's a dive at mid-wicket. They actually deflects it away from mid-on, moving across, but it doesn't really matter because the ball's rolling slowly enough that it is just the single.
Good stop, actually, by Tom Abel, flinging himself away to his left. Gets a congratulatory fist bump from wicketkeeper Stephen Davies as he passes him on his way to short fine leg.
Last ball of the over as Leach bowls to Bracey. Bracey's forward and once more nurdling it away towards the point umpire in that instance, and Neil Bainton just has to move a little out of the way as the ball rolls out to the fielder in the deep. And another run is taken. Gloucestershire 128 for 2. They need 25 more runs to win.
Yes, and I don't think Somerset. They've tried everything this morning except Josh Davey.
I imagine he'll be feeling pretty disgruntled out there, really.
Well, don't quite know. As far as I know, he's fit. If he wasn't fit, I don't think he'd be out there. Here comes Spencer to ask who we've got to interview at the close of play. This is played away through the onside by Bracey, and he will pick up just the 2 runs. He didn't quite time that as he would have liked, but takes Gloucestershire 2 runs closer to their target.
Just maybe a time to bring up that match back in 1993, the last time that Gloucestershire won here at Somerset in red ball cricket.
There's Overton in and bowls, and Bracey just drops that down into the offside. Was Marcus
I said here at
Trescothick?
Somerset, sorry, I meant here at Taunton.
Here at Taunton, yeah. Was Trescothick playing?
He was not, no.
That was his first season for Somerset, but he didn't get in the side every game that season.
The nice thing about that, one of the many nice things about that, was that Richard Dawson was batting at 3 for Gloucestershire, and at 4 was Mark Lane, so next to each other in the batting lineup even.
Here's Overton in and bowls, and that's driven nicely by Bracey. A shot of real freedom. He feels he's letting him. He can afford to let himself go a bit now. Unfortunately for him, it was hit straight to George Bartlett, who fielded well at extra cover, but Bracey feels that he's broken whatever shackles the situation of the game might have imposed on him, as Overton is in a bowls, and again he strokes that pleasantly into the offside, but this time an easier stop for Bartlett. Still the relentless encouragement being given to the big fast bowler. It's not over till it's over. 23 more Gloucestershire need, with 8 wickets in hand. It wouldn't be a minor miracle if Somerset won this now. It would be a major miracle. This is a full toss, turned away uppishly into the onside, and well, he's fortunate to get away with that, really, Craig Overton. It was in the air for some time. Josh Davey does the fielding. Overton looks aggrieved, which is not a particularly rare occurrence, it has to be said.
Oh, I'm sorry, I've made a mistake, by the way. That's not Richard Dawson. I saw R. Dawson and assumed it was, but it's not. It's Bobby Dawson.
Of course, yeah. Here's Overton in and bowls to Bracey, who again plays a solid looking defensive shot, and that was made over from Craig Overton.
A bit of a brain freeze on my part there. 1993 for Richard
Well,
Dawson.
funny enough, I was looking at that. I was looking at that scorecard this morning, and I thought, oh well, that's interesting. Richard Dawson was playing there.
Well, yes, I apologise for that. Thank you to Adrian Thomas for correcting me on that front, because yes, 1993 was certainly not the right time for that. But it was Martin Ball's match, because Gloucestershire overturned a first innings deficit of 126 runs in that game, and Somerset were bowled out in the final innings for just 115, 22 runs short of their target, with Martin Ball claiming 8 for 46, which was his career best, and finished with match figures of 14 for 169. Here is Leach now. He bowls to Lace. That's flighted and wide, and that was saying drive me, and that's exactly what Tom Lace has done, and he has drilled it away to the extra cover boundary for 4 runs. Gloucestershire 134 for 2, and Tom Lace moves on to 7. That was far too tempting to lay off from Tom Lace, and really, why would you?
I think the end may come fairly swiftly now.
Mushtaq Ahmed was playing in that game for Somerset, took 9 wickets himself, as Leach bowls to Lace, and that's a little bit further back of a length. Lace on the back foot, just playing that one quietly away to mid-wicket, and there is no run. Clouds have come over a little, but it's still a very pleasant day as Leach bowls, and that's pushed up the pitch by Tom Lace and fielded the follow through by Jack Leach. And I would like to tell you more about that game, but I was only 37 at the time, and that's 37 days, not years, as that's popped up in the air by Lace, and it rolls away up towards mid-on. Gloucestershire have certainly had a little bit of luck as far as these leading edges are concerned. I've been concerned. As is Leach bowls, and that's full and straight, turned to mid-wicket where Tom Abel does the fielding. Lace back to waiting for the right ball to pounce on. Just 19 more required by Gloucestershire as Leach bowls wide, and it's pushed away to backward point in the end. Lace was not tempted to go into a full-blooded shot by that one, and that ends the over. Have been 38 bowled in the innings. Gloucestershire won 34 for 2, and still requiring 19 more to win.
Yeah, they've got these runs at a decent lick, have Gloucestershire. I think they've gone about this run chase in an exemplary way, not allowing the bowlers to dictate terms, taking full advantage of anything loose. They haven't rotated the strike particularly well, but that's because Somerset have been posting predominantly fairly defensive fields, as this is turned around the corner by Bracey just for a single. That's Tom Banton comes in from the deep mid-wicket boundary to do the fielding. Another run goes on the board, 310. What am I talking about? 135 for 2, looking at the wrong figure. So just 18 more required for Gloucestershire. Craig Overton straining every sinew. He's in bowls to Lace outside the off stump. There's nothing to do with a ball that reaches Stephen Davis at ankle height. Just the 2 slips. James Hildreth and Lewis Gregory. Going to be talking to Jason Kerr at close of play, the Somerset head coach. Ask him about the lessons that have been learned from this game. Overton is in bowls. This is pulled away by Lace, but it'll just be a single, as there's a man out in the shape and the person of Jack Leach down at long leg. So it is just a single. Lace moves on to 8. 136 for 2. Bracey on strike. You can hear the bat patting in the crease as Overton is in and bowls, and there's a well-judged single there. That time they did make up their mind to go for the single. Lace was backing up on that occasion, got down to the danger end pretty quickly, and no real danger. The throw came in from Bartlett, wasn't accurate. Another run goes on the board.
You certainly wouldn't want to get out at this point. James Bracey, having done so much hard work over the course of the match, I think he will be quite content just to watch.
I'm sure he will.
Tom Lace from the other end and take the singles that Somerset are giving him.
Is Overton to Lace. He's there in bowls, and Lace plays that away through the onside. That's going to go for 4 runs. Over pitch from Overton, and nicely dealt with by Tom Lace. It was almost an on drive, that, as opposed to a turn of the wrist through mid-wicket. He hit it straight of mid-wicket and through a sort of wide mid-on, but with a straight bat. It was a nice shot.
Yeah, it was. It was a ball that was there to be put away, but it was a real quality shot from Leicestershire, like you say, that sort of mixture between the on drive and the clip.
Overton in and bowls to Lace, and he won't get a run this time as that runs out to Tom Banton at backward point. End of that over. It's 141 for 2, just 12 more runs required by Gloucestershire. Lace on 12, and James Bracey adding to his first innings century with 77 not out. And he'll want to keep that not out status for the sake of his average. Cricketers keep a very close watch on their averages, whether they're batsmen or bowlers. Sanitisation break going on out there at the moment. I think it's a pretty downbeat gathering of the Somerset fielders out there. This match has comprehensively gone from them. It's going to be a comfortable win for Gloucestershire. A match that Somerset would have had high hopes of winning, not least when Gloucestershire were 203 for 7, still 105 runs behind.
Yeah, they were in control of the game until then. Admittedly, Gloucestershire got off to a good start in the first innings, having Somerset 80 for 4 and 110 for 5, but looked as though Craig Overton and Stephen Davis had given Somerset enough runs potentially on this pitch, and it looked the same way until Gloucestershire 203 for 7, as that's turned away by Bracey off Jack Leach. One bounce and into the fielder at short leg, but the Bracey-Matt Taylor partnership was what turned things around. Even if Gloucestershire did still trail by 3 runs, it looked as though Gloucestershire were going to
well, it got
well
them
behind.
It got them back to
pushed them in on no run.
Got them back to parity, didn't it? And then Somerset collapsed really in their second innings.
Leach remaining over the wicket as he's in and bowls to Bracey. Bracey plays with bat and pad very close together there, and they were thinking there might be a chance for a bat pad, but it just rolled off almost straight down in the end, but enough to cause Leach to feel like he might have got a wicket. And to be honest, he deserves a wicket for the way he bowled in the first innings. Reverse sweep, Bracey gets that one away towards deep backward point. Be a single, just 11 more required now, 142 for 2. And really, I guess maybe it was something about the fact that it looked as though they were going to be much further behind than they were that made Gloucestershire feel as though they were actually somehow ahead in the game, even though they were still 3 runs behind on first innings. I don't know. Leach bowls, and Lace plays off the inside half of the bat towards mid-wicket there. It's been a better over this from Jack Leach than a few of his others recently, but the collapse from Somerset, I must say, I really did not see coming.
Yeah, I did.
Leach bowls, and there's a sweep shot from Lace, and he's got this one to the left of deep backward square, and it's away for 4 runs. And Lace didn't hold back with the power on the sweep shot there. He was always looking to try and hit that one quite hard. It was still a checked follow through, but he had every intention of picking up 4 rather than just dabbing away into the leg side for a couple of runs. 146 for 2. Lace has 16, and Gloucestershire now just need 7 more runs to win.
I'll hand over when they get to within 6.
I'm not entirely sure that they will hit a 6 off Craig Overton,
well,
but you never know.
You never know. You never know. James Bracey would rather enjoy making a statement like that. He's waiting now. Just 7 needed by Gloucestershire as Overton is in and bowls to him. Drives away. Comes off a rather thick outside edge down to backward point, but he picks up a single. So 6 runs are required. Over to you, Ed Seaborn, to call Gloucestershire home. and I will console myself with the thought that Gloucestershire are my second favourite county after Somerset.
So I wonder how many Somerset fans that sentiment shared. Here is Craig Overton, he's there, he bowls to Lace, and that's full and straight and pushed away up towards mid-off, and there is no run. So I still think it's very unlikely that Tom Lace is going to be thwacking Craig Overton over the boundary for 6, but I think he'll have to bowl, well, even if he bowls a short ball, it's hard to see Tom Lace clearing that leg side boundary. I suppose maybe if he bowled a short wide ball that was uppercut towards the river stand, then potentially Lace might bring it up in one blow. But anyway, Craig Overton is there, he bowls, and that's pushed away to mid-wicket for no run. Lace was looking, I think, to be a little more attacking there and get that one through the pretty tight leg side field. They've had 2 catches in on the leg side for Tom Lace really almost since the start. They've looked as though they've thought that they're more likely to get him out caught in front of the wicket rather than behind. As here is Craig Overton in now bowls, and once more Lace just treating the ball with respect. It's a good length delivery, and it's straight and just vertical bat defence from Lace.
I've got an event of interest to Gloucestershire, well, and Somerset cricketers for that. That's a webinar jointly by the Cricket Society and the Mike Proctor Foundation, featuring Mike Proctor and Ali Backer in conversation with Roger Cooper, Wednesday, April the 28th, 2 p.m. And there's a link to click on to join.
Overton bowls, that's very wide, and surely will be called a wide, and is, as the ball almost seemed to pass beyond the return crease markings there. So Gloucestershire 1 run closer, they just need 5 more runs to win now.
That's all in aid, of course, of the Mike Proctor Foundation, which does such good work in helping children from disadvantaged families in South Africa.
Craig Overton moves in now. He bowls to Lace. Lace clips this one away. He'll get at least a single. They're going to push the fielder hard, and it's a long old throw out there from deep backward square leg, and so they're back quite comfortably for the second run. Gloucestershire's 150 is up. Not that even Gloucestershire are particularly interested in that. There's not one single clap from anywhere in the ground. They're all saving it for 3 more runs time. Craig Overton will not want the winning runs to come off his bowling. 3 runs to win as Overton bowls to Lace. It's short, pulled away hard by Lace, and it's gone away towards the boundary, but it's not going to get there. It's going to be 2 runs as Longleg moves across. He didn't time that one quite as well as I thought he might have done, and so the winning runs will not come off the bowling of Craig Overton, but Gloucestershire now cannot lose the match as we are all level. 152 for 2. Tom Lace moving on to 20.
Well, I think Gloucestershire have deserved their win. Their batting, wouldn't have said there was much to choose between the bowling of the 2 sides. I thought David Payne and Ryan Higgins both bowled very well in the Somerset first innings, and Matt Taylor I thought bowled pretty well in the second innings as well. But it's been the Gloucestershire batting looks less fragile, much less fragile than the Somerset top order.
And it really is testament to the incredible hard work that must have gone in over the winter to the Gloucestershire batting, because it really has been absolutely transformed in the 2 matches that we've seen this season and also in the pre-season. Really, it's just been a very different confidence about Gloucestershire's batting so far this season. Here is Leach, he's in, he bowls to Bracey. It's a full toss and it's played away wide of mid-wicket, and they come through for the single. That's all that's needed as the ball rolls away towards the boundary, and Gloucestershire have done it. They have beaten Somerset by 8 wickets here at Taunton. The first win at Taunton by Gloucestershire since 1993, and this has been a tremendous performance, really all round in the end. Starting off with Ryan Higgins, David Payne, right from the start, they set the tone for Gloucestershire in that first innings, and they were backed up by Matt Taylor and Dom Goodman, who has had a tremendous debut. And when the time came to bat, Chris Dent with another half century. He made it 3 half centuries from 3, but with the bat, really, the game has belonged to James Bracey, who hit the winning runs. It looks as if it's gone down as 4, so he will finish 83 not out in this innings to add to his 118 in the first innings. And he has really made a big statement here, has James Bracey, with regards to his future. And Matt Taylor, that partnership in that first innings, that really was the turning point of the match, with at that point Gloucestershire being over 100 runs behind. Matt Taylor and James Bracey putting on a partnership of 71 there, which turned the game really to what looked like an even contest at that point. But then the Gloucestershire bowlers got to work yesterday and skittled Somerset out for 149, with Ryan Higgins taking 4 wickets, 2 each for Matt Taylor and the very impressive Dom Goodman. And here today, after having lost Chris Dent last night, Gloucestershire have really put on a terrific performance in knocking these runs off, just with the loss of Craig Brathwaite for 36, Bracey 83 not out, Tom Lace 20 not out. And with credit to Adrian Thomas, this is the first time that Gloucestershire have won their opening 2 championship matches of the season since 1931.
Well, they've played very well. They've beaten Somerset fair and square. Congratulations to the Gloucesters on a very solid all-round performance. And that man, James Bracey, an outstanding talent, 118 and then 83 not out. And the 83 not out scored under pretty intense pressure. It was very, very tense yesterday evening, rather less so this morning. Somerset failed to make that early breakthrough, which could have made this an exciting finish. And Bracey and Brathwaite got Gloucester off to a good start this morning, and even though Brathwaite got himself out, Tom Lace was calm and collected and skillful. Jack Leach not at his best, and the pitch really not offering enough to the seam bowlers for Somerset to have any realistic hope of bowling Gloucestershire out for less than 153. So Somerset have got some problems to be solved, notably with their top order batting lineup. So many times last season the bowlers bailed out the top order batsmen either with the ball or many times with the bat. They almost did it this time with that partnership in the first innings between Stephen Davis and Craig Overton, and then again yesterday good partnership involving James Hildreth and Josh Davey, but they couldn't bail out the fragility of the Somerset top order batting on this occasion. And that second innings of 149, just 149 on a pretty good batting pitch, is what ultimately has cost Somerset this game. That plus the excellence of James Bracey and the all-round good cricket of this Gloucestershire side, who are certainly going to be a force in Group 2 in this season's County Championship. Well, there we are from the county ground at Taunton. Gloucestershire winners by 8 wickets, convincing winners. Many congratulations to them, and some hard thinking will have to be done in the Somerset corridors of cricketing power over the next few days before they go on to play Leicestershire. Who are your next opponents, Ed?
Well, Gloucestershire are heading down to the Aegeus Bowl to face Hampshire in a showdown of 2 teams who look as though they are going to win their first 2 matches each. And actually I can tell you that Hampshire have won down at the Aegeus Bowl by 2